It was a Thursday night, close to midnight, when I boarded the last train to Millhaven. I'd stayed late at work, and the platform was nearly deserted. The train screeched to a stop, its doors sliding open with a mechanical sigh, and I stepped inside. The car was dimly lit, humming with that old fluorescent buzz that made everything look sickly and pale. A handful of passengers sat scattered throughout, an old woman clutching a shopping bag, a man in a suit staring out the window, two teenagers whispering at the far end. At first, it seemed normal, ordinary. I found a seat and pulled out my phone, telling myself I'd close my eyes for the ride home. But after a while, I realized something strange. The train wasn't stopping. We passed station after station, the platforms rushing by outside the windows, but the brakes never engaged, the doors never opened. The car just rattled on into the darkness, deeper and deeper into the underground. I glanced around, waiting for someone else to notice, but the other passengers didn't react. The old woman still clutched her bag. The man in the suit still stared blankly out the window. The teenagers whispered like nothing was wrong. Finally, I stood and walked toward the conductor's door at the front of the car. I knocked lightly. "Excuse me?" My voice echoed weirdly in the silence. "You missed a few stops." No answer. I knocked harder. The door rattled under my fist. Still nothing. When I turned back, the car seemed different. The lights flickered overhead, and for a split second I could have sworn the passengers weren't sitting anymore. They were standing, closer, watching me. I blinked, and they were back in their seats, unmoving. My throat tightened. I walked down the aisle, trying to catch someone's eye, anyone's. But none of them blinked. None of them even breathed. The teenagers' whispers had stopped. The old woman's knuckles were white around her bag. The man in the suit had pressed his forehead against the glass, his breath fogging up the window in slow, steady bursts. That's when I noticed his reflection in the glass didn't match. His body leaned forward, but the reflection leaned back, grinning at me with teeth far too sharp. I stumbled back, heart pounding, and the train gave a violent lurch. The lights flickered again, plunging the car into brief darkness. When they came back on, the old woman was gone. Her bag sat alone on the seat, open. Inside wasn't groceries, but a pile of rotting teeth. I froze, bile rising in my throat. The conductor's door slowly creaked open on its own. I hesitated, then stepped through. The narrow cabin smelled of rust and smoke. The controls were smashed, wires sparking, as though no one had touched them in decades. And in the seat wasn't a man. It was a figure, slumped forward, skin stretched paper-thin over bone, its conductor's cap tilted on a skull-like head. The thing slowly turned, empty sockets fixing on me. Its jaw unhinged with a crack, and a sound poured out, a screeching metallic wail like brakes grinding on steel. Behind me, I heard footsteps, slow, heavy. The passengers were standing now, filling the doorway, their faces pale and twisted, their mouths opening in unison, releasing that same metallic scream. The train sped faster and faster, the tunnels outside blurring, walls walking into jagged stone instead of concrete. And then I realized this wasn't a train anymore. It was a vessel, taking me somewhere I was never meant to go. The last thing I remember was the conductor lifting one bony hand, pointing directly at me as the train plunged into pitch black. The screeching never stopped, and when I woke, I was still on the train.